You're all set.
Great. All right, it is 7:01 p.m. on Tuesday, May 31st. I'd like to call the Town Council Strategic Planning Committee to order. Councilors Eric Moore, Fred Chase, and Dennis Gallagher are present, so we have a quorum. And Deborah Ward will be recording minutes. This meeting will be conducted remotely via Zoom. We encourage any interested residents to participate via the link or phone number posted in the agenda. And then just as another quick reminder, all of the documents that we share in this meeting are public information and available by sending me an email request. So in the future, we'll be looking to find potentially other ways to share some of these documents. But if anybody would like access, please just send me an email. I'm happy to share them. And my email address is available on the town website. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is meeting minutes. I think we're looking to approve the meeting minutes from May 5th. So I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Great, we'll do a roll call vote. Dennis?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
And I am a yes, so the motion passes 3-0. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to comment? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item. And the next agenda item is the continued discussion of the Town Council Strategic Initiative Tracker. So I have a couple of updates and some new information here. I just wanted to share with this group prior to the workshop. So the first, as you know, we presented to the Town Council and received support to pursue the workshop. And Debbie is helping us line that up. I think we're looking at June 8th or maybe the 14th to do that. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today is the agenda for that. But maybe before I dive into the agenda, I did want to share just a quick update on one of the tabs in the town in the tracker. So after we presented in Town Council, Michael mentioned that they also have a tracker that they use to track some of the ordinances as they move through the system. And so he suggested that maybe we sort of join forces and combine the information on their tracker with some of the additional columns that we had discussed and have a single tracker that we could all sort of keep updated and post in the Town Council agenda each week, just so people would know what's there. So I wanted to share. Debbie was great. Debbie took that and turned it into a working document for us. So I wanted to just share that and just get a reaction, see if we were comfortable maybe moving this along to the workshop. Let me share that. Let's see, make sure I've got the right one here. I believe this is it. You should see a draft with public ways in the top. And I apologize, I know that's a little hard to see. Let me zoom in a little bit and just share this. So if you remember, we had two trackers. One was big initiatives, and then the others was order, ordinance, and resolution. This is that second one. This is the order, ordinance, and resolution tracker. So there's a subject, there's a type, there's the number, the description, the sponsor, the current owner. In the case where it's done, this current owner might be complete or closed. Where it's still open, you might see the town manager or one of the committees. The date introduced, the last update, the age, and then comments. And then where necessary, there's a next action and an overall status. So, so this is essentially adopted or created from a version of a document that already exists, along with some of the additional columns that we had suggested. And the way that this would work is Debbie would get an updated version of this before the Town Council meetings. She would kind of tweak some of the updates and then include it in the agenda if the council thought that that was the appropriate thing to do, and then the public could see the status of these, and so could we every week. So for today, I'm wondering if there's any reaction or concern with that, and if not, I thought I would present this version of the document in our workshop to the rest of the council. Any concern?
Well, I do. I mean, I think that I have no problem with this being presented at the workshop, whatever day it is, but I do think that the strategic planning committee should look at, the accepting of a road is not strategic planning. The transfer orders of non-union money, is not strategic planning. I mean, I'm kind of I was really trying to focus on things that we as counselors have put forth as ordinances or things to try to track them. I just think that, I don't know, I just think there were some things that, I don't know, I haven't seen this document, so I mean, if you could obviously send it to Fred and I after the meeting, I just think there's, merging what the town manager has and other things, acceptance of a grant, those are all just things that happen. That's not strategic planning.
Well, one thing, if I may,
Yep.
I'm sorry if I may, Dennis.
No, go
what
ahead.
I'm thinking is that the town's version, what we're looking at, well, we're looking at a hybrid, right? But
Right.
it seems to me that the town's version is tracking, things are already have reached the council and had some form of disposition, whether, orders, ordinances, resolutions, whatever it may be. Now, if you remember, the initial document that Eric had put forward also incorporates an initiative tracker. So I'm wondering if the initiative tracker would be the more appropriate place for everything that we as a council touch, whereas the something in the form of what we're looking at right now is more appropriate for, and perhaps could be combined in a hybrid mode for matters that are already in process. So I'm seeing your point, and
Yeah.
I guess what I'm thinking is that maybe the other schedule that Eric had proposed, the initiative tracker, is what's going to capture more directly our work as a council. Any thoughts on that?
No, you're right. I think that I'd like to see two, like part A and part B, or section 1 or section 2, and say, okay, section 1 are things that we identify as a council what strategic planning are looking for, like the center, like we talked about the center of town, all the master plan committee, things like that. And then the other one could be what the town manager is doing. Like, for example, in my opinion, the fire station is done with. It's done with. It's been approved. It's going to get built. The strategic planning with the new fire station should be: are we ready for when it opens? Are there going to be any budgetary additions when that opens? Is there going to be additional equipment needed? That's where I think the fire station now can come into play. And obviously, what are we going to do with the old station? That's certainly strategic planning. And I think that's in here somewhere, but yeah.
I think, so I'll pull up the other sheet. I think you're exactly right. There is a separate spreadsheet that I'm using to track those items.
Okay.
And then I think the original thinking was that if there were some ordinances or orders that are tied to those, we might want to highlight them and say, specifically in the case of maybe the charter changes, if one of our big initiatives was get these charter changes through, and we said we also want to track the status of the ordinances we use to do that, we might be able to add a column to this view you're seeing now and say, within the big list of things the town is doing, we want to keep an eye on these 5 things because they have strategic importance. So that could be another way we could tie the 2 things together, linked, some column or something that says linked to a town council strategic initiative, something like that.
No, I think it's good. I just like this. I personally don't think, contractual settlements, is really something we need to focus on, it's,
Yes.
you know,
So then if this is something that we're not really managing, but we
Right.
are asking, essentially Debbie and Michael would be updating this on a continuous basis and posting it so we can see where these things are that are moving through committees and different things. To your point, we wouldn't necessarily have to drive or manage those in this subcommittee. What this subcommittee could manage, and maybe I'll stop sharing this one and just show that other one just to make sure I'm thinking of this in the right way. I think it is more of this. This is the second tab where these are the big things that we might be interested in. The town hall.
you're right,
the
right,
roadways.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think maybe to make sure that I capture that correctly, I think Dennis, you were saying you're not against the second tracker. It's good to have the information, but it isn't necessarily a set of strategic items we're tracking. It's just those are more, where are things in the process?
Well, I mean, he's constantly, I think he's constantly negotiating contracts, which is fine. The only thing he comes to us for is the funding, is the money. Strategic planning could be something to say, look at these contracts and start deciphering what kinds of things is he negotiating, and maybe what kinds of things can we kind of suggest to him. We can't really dictate, suggest to him, well, maybe the health insurance needs to change, or maybe, some of these buyouts, you've seen these huge buyouts that we're paying for, maybe some of the language in the contracts we need to try to plan so we don't have these future big liabilities going down the road. That might be the angle we would play with the contract, if we have that say. I'm not even sure we do, but
Okay.
I don't know if we want to get involved in that either.
Fred, any other thoughts on this? On the two trackers?
Well, I think I understand your rationale behind, having the two documents. And so as to the point of developing a hybrid where we incorporate into our ordinance tracker, additional information from the town manager seems to me to be, benign and probably helpful potentially. I almost look at it as why not? We're maintaining our own tracker in both cases. We're updating and maintaining the tracker for our own purposes, but there might be some additional information that is made known to us by access to the town manager's, what am I trying to say? By his document, by his system. And maybe it would be good to be able to tie the two together that way. And I do think that if we follow that through to its conclusion, that the point that Eric made about, putting a cross-reference between the two documents is helpful too. To kind of call to our attention the fact that, there's been some development and, check on the ordinance tracker, for example. If we're looking at the status of an initiative and there's been some recent movement, we may not necessarily know of it if we didn't have a hand in it. So the tracker gives us an opportunity to update ourselves, without, kind of, ringing up the town manager to ask him.
Great. I like having that specific line that connects the two as well. I think, on something, even, Dennis, I remember you were asking about, what is the status of, at the state of kind of the new precinct maps and the voting. And so then we could say, okay, well, these are the 4 ordinances that have to happen for that to go. And we would know when there's been some movement on those 4, that type of thing. Okay. So I think that makes sense then. What I'll plan to do is present this tracker in the workshop. And then maybe I'll share the newer version of the other tracker in the workshop, just so people understand the two documents. But we'll probably focus the workshop on this initiatives tracker, right? What should be on there and the priority. And then I was thinking to leave that meeting. So what I'd like to do is maybe fill out the rest of this and share it with the group in that workshop. And then we want to leave that workshop with potentially changes to things that are on there. If somebody has different information, we could correct it. The addition of new rows, if somebody has something that isn't on there that they'd like to see there. And then I think most importantly, if we could try to pick as a council the top 5, maybe we just start with that and just make sure we're at least know what the top 5 things, even if we don't know the order, we know that like the 5 most important things on the list are X, Y, and Z. I think that would be a good outcome for that workshop. Are there thoughts on that?
Just one occurred to me just by what you had just said, Eric, which is that I agree, prioritizing them, I think would be beneficial. One thing we might want to bear in mind is it's almost like we could have a top 5 with respect to priority, their importance, but somehow we might also want to give some thought to their immediacy. Something might not have in the long run the utmost importance, among the 5 or whatever number of items, but it might require more immediate attention for reason of some deadline or something that's going to really cause to urge us to take more immediate action than for some of the other items. So maybe we almost have to incorporate some way of within the priority designating urgency almost. That's something to think about.
I like that. That's sort of like, I think it's like that Eisenhower matrix of importance and urgency. And we could maybe just ask people to weigh in on both of those then. So even just creating another column in the tracker then, Fred, this is our number 1 priority or importance, I guess. This would be importance and then urgency. And is urgency sort of like a time frame? We like this quarter, this year, next 3 years, something like that. I'm making that up, but
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It may not impact, everything that we're prioritizing, but obviously if some item does have, either a short fuse or some particular hurdle that has to be overcome, we might want to, flag it.
I like that. So I think a way I've seen this done before is you can have like a high, medium, and low. So something like high importance, low urgency, would maybe give it a medium priority, but a high importance, high urgency, might give it a high. So we would decide kind of based on the outcome of, we would pick our top 5 based on our review of these 2 columns. Does that make sense? So we might, I'll change this, but
I think something like that would be useful. We can kick that around with the larger group too.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great way to think about it too. And to your point, we might have things that just have to happen right now. They don't have huge strategic importance, but we know for some other reason, they need to happen. We can prioritize those. Yep. Dennis, did you have thoughts on that one?
No, I think that's fine. I mean, I'll take a look at the list and, I think the immediate ones that I would focus on, I mean, as far as the roads, that's going to be ongoing because obviously we can't do them all in one day, all in one year. So the roadway plan is I mean, again, there was a study done of roads that were in worse shape than others and so forth, but I understand funding may alter that priority based on how much money we have and the length of the road that needs to be done. So I'd like to know, this fiscal year, since we just approved the budget, is, what roads will be taken care of this fiscal year? And perhaps what are the, maybe have a list of 5 or 6 roads over the next 2 years that will be in that plan. So that to me is a roadway plan to say, okay, this year we're going to do, South Street and Cross Street. And next year will be this, that, and the other one. I mean, it's not, we need to hear that from the town manager, because we can't really dictate to him what roads have to get done. And obviously everyone's going to want different roads done based on who barks the loudest. But I mean, he's got to, I just think he should know by now what the plan is for this summer and fall.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know, when people complain to me and complain to you guys and say, Oak Street is horrible. When is that going to get done? I could say to them, never. I could say to them, well, it's third on the list, or it's not even in the radar screen or something like that. But but their roadway plan is, I think, should always be high priority. But we understand we can't do everything in one year. It's going to be an ongoing project, as every town has. But at least we should be able to know, okay, what's going to get done fiscal 23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Town hall roof. We did approve the monies for the town hall roof at least a couple months ago. I don't know where we are with approving a contractor yet. I know we were going to seek grant money for that. Yeah, when did we approve that?
Yeah, April 5th.
Yeah, 2 months.
Yeah.
I thought an RFP had gone out on that, but I guess that's something we'd have to find out about.
No.
Yeah. But I think that's a good example of, if we have this, we can send it over to Michael and just say, we're going to talk about this in our next meeting. What's the status on these things? And he could tell us what the RFP are.
Yeah, what the bids came in at, and it could just be a simple, he could have awarded, he could award the contract to someone, but they could say, well, I don't have the staff right now, or I can't get the materials right now. It's going to be delayed because of that, which I could understand. But, it's not a huge project for one contractor. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
the school will be opening up in September down here. And
Yeah.
that'll be a big thing.
Okay.
5.
So I'll take a pass through this and just update it with any newer information. I'll send it out to both of you. I'll send both trackers out to both of you. And if you have any suggested edits, we can discuss them in the workshop format. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think if the workshop, if all the councils could get this a couple of days at least before the workshop and kind of say, the focus of the workshop is to prioritize, say, I don't know what, if that's, take a look at these things, and, we all might have some different ideas as to what might be more urgent than other things too. I don't know.
Okay.
That's a good point, Dennis, about, getting this to folks in advance of the workshop. I was thinking just a minute ago of the fact that at the last meeting, we had very low turnout among the counselors. And so it seems to me not unreasonable to think that some people haven't looked at this document yet.
True.
So it probably would be beneficial to have, give them a little bit of, heads up with respect to the, what's going to take place at the workshop.
Okay, so
Right.
what I can do then is maybe send both of these documents to Debbie and ask her as part of the scheduling to send them out. We've seen both of them in public. I think it's fine to share them all out.
Does Debbie have an idea as to what kind of response she's getting as far as what day is best for everybody so far? Or is she still working on that, Debbie? Can you hear me?
I've only heard back from you, Dennis.
That's it. Jeez, I'm always on top of things. Always on top of things.
He cannot do the 9th, but he can do the following week.
I can't do the 9th. I could do, I know Eric, you said something about the 8th. I don't know if you meant the 9th, but.
Oh, I might have had the wrong one.
Yeah, the 9th is the Plymouth County Advisory Board budget meeting that I'm on, so I don't know if I'm gonna be on Zoom or in person down in Plymouth, but the 9th at the moment doesn't look good for me, but the following week, or the 14th, I think that was.
Yeah, the 14th.
Yeah, that would be better for me at the moment. But again, I'm just one person that responded.
I'm okay with both of them. I think, both of them work for me. So
the proposal was initially for the 8th or 9th?
The 9th or the 14th.
9th or the 14th. Okay. Okay. I think that personally, it seems to me that either day is open for me. So I can send that response so you'll remember it, but either of those days look fine to me.
Perfect. Okay. I think if the 14th works for you, Dennis, maybe we just try to lock it in and see if everyone else can attend.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday night. I think we've all kind of conditioned ourselves that we may have a meeting Tuesday night, so.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so just to close this one out, we'll get both of these documents through Debbie out to the counselors, and we will send an agenda saying what we'd like to do is get their feedback on the contents of the initiative tracker. And then we're going to have a discussion to get to a priority. We're going to ask for just alignment on importance and urgency, and then we want to make sure we get a priority of just the top 5 things that we should be moving on now. Does that sound right?
I think so.
Great. Excellent. So I'm going to stop sharing this. Let's see. And then anything else on that agenda item before I move to the next one?
Eric, can I speak to that since I didn't speak up in public comment?
Yeah, sorry, Carlton. I don't see you on my screen.
My hand's up. My hand's up.
Sure.
2 things. On the first one that you showed at the town managers, it's all an order tracker. I didn't see anything to the left, but all it's tracking is when you guys approved it. It's not tracking the outcome. For example, one of those orders was done. When was it completed? You don't know that. And that, I think in that one, if you're going to use that at all, it's the town managers, and you should track for when he completes that work. That's what I would add to that one. And I think your discussion on this second one here, the 2 tabs, is phenomenal. It's very good. I think you should reach out to certain people that actually have some say in terms of, for example, you talked about the townhouse roof repair. Well, the reason you haven't heard anything yet is because the grant is not due to be announced until June 9th. And I know for a fact, because she's sitting here, the manager of that task had a meeting last week with the town manager saying, get those RFPs prepared and get them out. So there are things, and like the community preservation, we have all sorts of stuff we're working on that he's been, quite frankly, I'm going to be real blunt, he's been remiss. You guys approved for the memorial building money, the CPA money, for the accessibility for that building. And in that order, I believe it said that he had to deliver a maintenance plan. It's now been 18 months and we still don't have a maintenance plan, but yet you see the progress. So that there are other people that have things that should be entered into this. And the last thing, and thank you so much for letting me speak. The last thing I'll enter into this is the urgent important piece is really critical, but you need to go, I think the council needs to include in this the actions out of the currently approved by the town planning board master plan. There are a bunch of near-term, midterm, and far-term elements that need to be tracked by you guys in addition to the planning board. So those are my comments. I think the tracker that you've got, the second one, is particularly critical, but I think there are a number of things that, because the CPC has not been asked to come before the council and report on our work, you don't know about it. Because the Energy Committee has not been, as admin code says, we will report to the town council once a year. Because we have not been asked, you don't know what we're doing, I'm doing with the energy. And there are some significant things that are in play, as Fred knows.
Yeah.
Or the town clerk's office, who does all sorts of things. So it's wider than just the town manager, because you only hear what he tells you, but there are other people working on critical items, particularly now that the master plan is in place. And I'll stop now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carlton. So maybe just a few comments on that. I think the idea of when was it introduced and when was it completed, definitely want those dates in there, along with an age. So we know, is this thing 1 week old or 1 year old? And that becomes a record of the time to complete at the end. So I think we will have that covered when you see the full spreadsheet. I think the other question of, how do things end up on the spreadsheet, and how do we make sure we have visibility to the different things that are happening in the town? It's also a great question. I think we could include that in our agenda for the workshop. My sense is, I think let's start with something actionable that we have, and then we can discuss ways for socializing that with the rest of the people in the town that are volunteering and pushing these strategic efforts forward, and make sure that they get on the list. Fred or Dennis, any other comments on that before I move on? Any thoughts?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Great. All right, so let me just see. The next item we have on the agenda is the creation of a strategic calendar. So I want to share something with you, and maybe before I do, just to give a little background. So one of the things that I find a little challenging is when we start to try to get a picture of all of the things that are supposed to be happening in a given month, in the order that those things are happening. It's really difficult to just find a calendar that shows these things. And so for example, when in the year is the council supposed to set its goals? And then when in the years, do we set the town manager's goals? And when in the year does the town manager start to do his budget? And making sure that those three things happen in a sequence, so that the town council's goals can influence what we want the manager to do, what the town manager's goals are can influence the budget that he's setting aside for the next year. And I'm sure there are many other things, like that, where the order of activities matters, and us probably hitting some deadlines makes a difference between whether or not our input is factored into things like budgets. And so this isn't an actual calendar, but just sort of for inspiration. Let me share this. If I can find it, 1 second here. Yes. Can you see that? It's a 2020 calendar, just pretty straightforward. So
You want to go backwards that far?
I tried to find one newer.
We don't want to go
I have
back.
one, but it wasn't presenting correctly. So pretend in your mind that this is this year, next year. But what I was imagining is, if this committee, the strategic planning committee, sort of every year, collected updated dates, even best guesses on dates, for maybe a dozen kind of key strategic activities that happen throughout the year, and we put them on a calendar so that everybody knows what the target is. So I think there's probably some time we want to make sure that the town manager socializes his budget with us. The other things I talked about, when do we do his review? When do we set his goals? And then I was even thinking, we all got a lot of feedback around town celebrations and, what's happening with things like, Memorial Day observance. I think if we put those things also on a calendar like this, maybe a few, kind of key observance or activities, it helps us make sure we're planning for them and communicating when they're happening so people know. So I'll pause there. Does something like this already exist? Or do you know if this has been tried before, and would it be helpful?
I think it'd be very helpful, and no, it hasn't been tried before, but there are certain things there are things in the charter that dictate when things should start, but there's no reason why we can't put it on a calendar like this. There are some things in the town manager's contract that dictate when he'll be reviewed, I believe. Or there is even a review committee too, so we can plug in dates here. But I could look at this as kind of like a school calendar too. It's like, okay, we could put in our meetings. We can, put in, when there's holidays coming up and we need to start planning for those. There's usually the budget directive usually comes out sometime November. I think that this, I think this would be good because we all don't have we all don't have the charter, the 700-page charter right at our index fingers. So it'd be good to have this as a bullet point to what should be expected. So absolutely, I think this would be a good idea. And I don't think it's ever been tried before, no.
Okay.
I certainly agree with Dennis, because I think that the, kind of year at a glance view it can be very helpful. I particularly I was going to mention, let's put in our meeting dates because they're scheduled a year in advance. We know what they're going to be. And it would be helpful because we might see something on the calendar, with some relevance for an upcoming meeting. Oh, gee, well, in order to get that on the agenda for that meeting, we know we're going to have to allow ample time for publication, et cetera. So it would be kind of a useful tool, I think, for so many reasons. A lot of those dates are going to have entries, which is good. I mean, it's kind of a yardstick to, our whole year potentially. But as long as those are, really, such as you've mentioned, very relevant dates of importance that we have to be mindful of, I think it's an excellent idea.
Great. Thank you. So what I can do then is maybe take a stab at pulling the dates out of the charter. I do have a version, I think, that I've highlighted a few of those things, or even some of our bylaws. And I can work with Debbie just to get the town council dates, the meeting dates on there. I did also reach out to Michael and I just said, what are the dates you use to manage the town? Like, what are some of the key dates you need inputs by? So he said he would work on a version of that he could share back to us. And then maybe in our next meeting, I can bring that draft. We can react to it, and then you can also fill in other things that you would maybe expected to see that I just don't know about because I haven't experienced them yet. Does that sound like a good next step for this?
I would say so.
Great. Okay. And I will update it so it's not 2020.
Keep Christmas on the 25th.
Yes. Absolutely.
Could we add our birthdays? Perhaps?
Yeah, birthdays.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. Anniversaries, make sure all those things are on there. Yeah. Perfect. All right. I think those were the only topics I had for the agenda today. So unless there's anything else, I think we could adjourn. Is there anything else?
So the next step is we meet the 7th, right? The council meets the 7th.
Correct.
Okay, maybe you can give an update, at that meeting, and hopefully we'll have more if we do the workshop on the 14th, hopefully everybody can come. It'll probably be through Zoom. The workshop will probably be a Zoom one, yeah. Yeah.
It will. So that's good. Yeah, so on the next town council agenda, I can just do a quick update. I can maybe mention this idea about the calendar too, so people know about that. And then we'll do the workshop. Great.
That sounds perfect.
Okay, I think with that, then we could probably adjourn. Do I need to do a vote to adjourn, or can I just adjourn?
No, I think we probably have to
Yeah.
go through the motions.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'll
I
make
would
a motion.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
Second,
All right, roll call vote. Dennis,
yes.
Fred?
Yes.
I am also a yes. Motion passes 3-0. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
See ya.
Have a
great
good night.
See ya.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.